Good morning. It is Monday. It's the 17th of February, and this morning is President's Day. So if you'll bear with me, I want to do something a little bit different, including reading two passages, one from 1 Timothy 2:1 and 2a, and Romans 13:1. First of all, then, I urge that requests, prayers, intercessions, and thanks be offered on behalf of all people, even for kings and all who are in authority. Let every person be subject to governing authorities, for there is no authority except by God's appointment, and the authorities that exist have been instituted by God. Now, I do not intend to politicize. I do intend to run a tad bit longer this morning. First, we need to understand that we have the freedom, thank the Lord, in this country to disagree with whatever is coming out of whatever government. But we are to pray for our leaders. And by that, I don't mean, God, rain fire down on them. We are to pray that God would touch them and would move in their lives. And we are told to obey authority. And with a few exceptions that I don't intend to take the time to get into here, that means we are to obey the laws and the powers that be, whoever they happen to be, whether it's one administration that we like or administration that we don't like. And the underlying issues are two reasons. First, because God tells us to do so, and we want to obey Him. After all, we're told to love God and love others in the way and pray for those who abuse us or for our enemies. And we do so by praying that God would do a work in their lives. And secondly, we are to do so because we are told to obey authorities. And remember, the reality is that whoever is in power, whether it's those we agree with or disagree with, it's because God has placed them there or allowed them to be there, either for our blessing or maybe because that's what we deserve and He is bringing judgment down on us. But in any case, we are to obey because He's placed them there or allowed them to be there. And remember, we are citizens of heaven. That means we represent God. So when we disagree, and we're allowed to, and when we speak out against things that we disagree with, we are allowed to. But we need to do that in a civil manner. We need to respect the office and speak accordingly, even in our disagreements. And remember that these truths coming through the Holy Spirit come to us via Paul and Peter, who are under governments that are a lot worse than whatever government we happen to be having at any given moment. They were living under authorities that were much more like we see in certain countries around the world, where to be a Christian means to be persecuted. So it's them who are telling us we are to obey. It's they who are telling us, inspired by the Spirit, that we are to pray for our leaders. It's in that context that we are to be humble and courteous in how we express our disagreements. And the reason I give so much emphasis on this is because over the last years, and I'm not just talking about 2024 or 20 or 16, I'm saying I have seen stuff on social media coming from people who may well be Christians that is not honoring to Christ, is not representative of how an ambassador of heaven should be speaking, but is full of vitriol and ugliness as anything that comes from the world. And that's not how we should or should want to be perceived as believers. So disagree with the last administration, disagree with this administration, whatever, but do so in a way that represents you as a citizen of heaven, as a representative of Christ, that's done in humility, not like I have all the answers and everybody else is wrong. And it's consistent with who God calls us to be. And so I think this is a day, President's Day, that we should remember that and remember not what we think about our leaders now or in the past or potentially in the future, but think about the fact of who does God want us to be interacting with the world and interacting in our own society? Do people see him and us, or is there no difference between us and the world? So pray for your leaders, obey authority, and that way we honor God. And I'll see you again tomorrow.